Greetings, everyone. This is your boy Sam Orum coming at you with another episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. I'm extremely excited today to have a guest to share with you that I know is going to literally blow you away. But before I get into that, as we always talk about, we truly want everybody to support what we're doing here at the Deep Dive Podcast. Make sure you go to your appropriate podcast platforms and like us, share, download, just continue to share this particular podcast because it's very important for us as we continue to expand around the world, around the globe. We truly want to be in a situation where we can touch as many people as possible. And the more people you share this opportunity with, the more people you share this podcast with, is going to actually expand our network even further around the world and give us a platform that is undeniably number one around the globe. So with that being said, everybody, I have a guest today that is literally going to blow you away. This guy has done so many things in so many industries. I got to tell you, I'm super proud of what he's done because, a lot of people talk about what it is that they're going to do, but very few people actually go out and make those things happen. Well, look, this is one of the guys that have actually made it happen. He is an activist. He is an independent hip hop artist. Now think about that. He's spreading his message through his art. He's a historian. He's actually shared a lot of things with people around the world. In fact, he has done business and explored over 45 states and over 60 countries around the world. There's a lot of people that we can't get to leave from their hometown, let alone travel to over 60 countries. So this guy has done an incredible job. We wanted to hear some things from him, some of his incredible story, but then also, some of his artistry and what motivates him and drives him. So I want to welcome to the Deep Dive Podcast world. I want everybody around the world to just give him a virtual hand clap, standing ovation, whatever you want to do. But please welcome none other than Taye Uhuru. Taye, how you doing, my brother?
Peace, King. All is well. I want to thank you again. I truly appreciate this opportunity. It's definitely an honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you so much, man. I mean, you've done some incredible things. And so we are honored to have you, here today at the Deep Dive Podcast. I mean, just understanding some of the things that you've done around the world and in the Dominican Republic and just so many other things. But just kind of tell us a little bit before we get into the weeds of everything. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing for the people who have not been exposed to your artistry.
Oh man, I feel like you covered pretty much everything, you know what I'm saying? But basically I love to travel, I love Black history, I love music, I love helping people, you know what I'm saying? So I just try to, intertwine all of those things in my life, and I've made that a part of my purpose, you know what I'm saying? No matter where I go into the world, I want to learn about the Black people that were there. I want to see where the Black people are living and how they're living and how I can help them, so.
Right. That's awesome, man. I know you've been to over 60 countries, 45 states, 60 countries. What have you been doing in those countries, and how have you actually kind of tied in your activism with the empowerment of Black people around the world? What are some of the things you've been able to do?
I've been able to do a lot. When I was in the Dominican Republic, I was actually living there. I was studying abroad in 2014. I was going to a college called Unibe. It was like one of the top universities in the country. But, during my off time, I volunteered. I did a lot of volunteer work at orphanages and community centers. So we would go to the orphanage, we would help clean it out, we would paint it, we would donate clothes, donate money, donate food. I did a lot of tutoring, one-on-one with the kids, doing a lot of arts and crafts. I bring my laptop up there, let them, play some educational games on the computers, different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that in several countries, and even in Africa, in Cape Verde, we work with the elementary school and the youth program to donate school supplies and uniforms and clothes and different things like that. During the pandemic, I was kind of slowed down because I couldn't move around as much, but
Right.
I was still able to send money to places like the Philippines. It's a school out there that I worked with, because a lot of countries, The kids have to pay for school. They have to pay for uniforms, and they already don't really
Hmm.
have a lot of money. So that means that they can't go. Also I help, donate for people to get medicine, people to get food and groceries. In 2016, I co-founded a food cooperative. So I just try to stay active and just do as much as I can. Everywhere I go, I just try to plant, a seed for sure.
Right. Man, that's incredible, my brother. Let me ask you this. What actually motivated you to, start this kind of philanthropic activity or just being able to empower Black people? What motivated you to get started in the first place?
Oh man, I mean, a lot of it started with my family, you know what I'm saying? So my mom, she always helping people out. She was a bus driver, so she
Hmm.
drove for Greyhound, and she took me on my first trip. She took my brothers and sisters to places like New York, Detroit, Chicago, places within driving distance. So that's where I developed my love for traveling. Also, that's where I learned about my Black history from my mom. She taught me about her brother. He was a Black nationalist. He started his own Black Power group in the 60s. And his grandfather, which is her grandfather, that's my great great grandfather. He was a member of the UNIA. He joined the Marcus Garvey organization. He was a follower. I never got a chance to meet my great grandfather, but my grandmother told me a lot of stories about him when I was young. So a lot of Black Americans, they don't have that experience at that young age. She told me about Marcus Garvey and how her father said that we were Africans and we should go back to Africa. So I had a different perspective of Black people in general as a
Right.
whole. So I was admired African history and African people. So, like I say, a lot of that stuff, it kind of started with my family for sure.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've had, activism in your family for generations.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Over 100 years.
Wow, man, that's good because we have so many things that we're still trying to accomplish today. We have the Black Lives Matter movement, as you know, and I personally think one of the biggest issues in terms of all type of activism and even us taking that next step in terms of a community is to be able to economically overcome, if you will. So many of us, we have aspirations to do this, that, and thus, but at the end of the day, we lack the resources, and the message that you're sharing out there, not only that, what you're doing in your activism, but then you're also doing things economically. You're also, like I said, doing philanthropy work. You're also, just helping people. As a matter of fact, I know that you done a lot of work in terms of working with people with developmental disabilities. How did that all come about, and how does that tie into what it is that you're doing?
Oh yeah, man. I try to work with everybody. If they're young, if they're elderly, if they're disabled. I just try to spread my love all the way around. I have people in my family that have disabilities. So like I say, it all go back to the family. You know what I'm saying? And I saw how people treated my aunt or treated my cousin that had disabilities. And some people, they may not have somebody in their family with disabilities, so they may treat them differently. And I have a little bit more understanding and experience, in that field. It's amazing. You meet some amazing people, throughout the course of doing that type of work. But like you was talking about with the economic piece, we don't have as much money as a lot of other groups of people, but we can do cooperatives. We could do a food co-op. We could do a land co-op. We could do a housing co-op. We could do a economic co-op. We could do a workers co-op. So if you have a community with 10,000 people, if everybody put in $100, then that could be money to buy some land or buy some buildings, to keep it from getting regentrified. So, there are ways that we can pull together, you know what I'm saying, and make a difference in our own communities, because we'll pay $200 for some shoes, we'll pay $200 for jeans or
That's
for a
right.
belt or for a hair weave or fingernails and stuff like that.
That's
We'll
right.
walk around with $1,000 worth of equipment, but we don't own nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Now that's deep there, man. I tell you, you're absolutely right. There was an organization that I was a part of years ago, and that was the premise behind what we wanted to do: pool our resources and and buy properties and buy hotels and buy housing units and things of that nature. And I do believe that's important. For all of our listeners, I think it's important for everybody to understand that when we can combine our efforts, not just economically, but just in terms of our activism, in terms of, like we were talking about food banks and land and housing and all of these other things, when we can come together and pool our resources. We have always been able to do some incredible things. And I think as we're going forward to close out this year and going into next year, I think it's going to be even more important for all of us to continue to stick together as a community and to continue to just kind of live for each other, working with each other, continuing to uplift each other. See, it has been proven that we can't, separate and thrive, right? So, it has to be an opportunity for us to just kind of work together, and see if we can accomplish some things. How have you, been able to work with some of the people as you travel around the world, or how people been, responding to your activism?
I mean, for the most part, I don't receive nothing but love. You know what I'm saying? We watch the news a lot. We watch TV. We watch movies like Taken and Hostel. And, by the time you watch Fox and CNN, you really don't want to go too much of nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
A lot of times, I get nothing but love. You know what I'm saying? And you find out it's people that have a lot in common with you in different countries because we share a similar history. A lot of African Americans, we don't really know our own history, but
right.
We got brothers and sisters in Brazil and Jamaica and Haiti and Cuba and Africa and India and Asia and the Philippines, Australia. They encountered colonialism and slavery and oppression, and they trying to, simultaneously recuperate from, the things that they have been through. So they
right.
are more open to being empowered.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's good, man. I agree with you 100%. I had a chance to go to Mombasa, Kenya, a few years ago, and you're absolutely right. It's a different feeling over there. And I heard people say this over and over, over the years before I went there. It's like once you get there and once you touch down on the land, it's just a different feeling. And I always used to think, okay, yeah. But then when I actually touched down in Kenya, there was a totally different feeling. The energy is different. The atmosphere is different. And I think the values in a lot of cases are different. I remember, little kids coming up to us and, they were excited to get just a piece of peppermint candy or a pencil, just something as simplistic as that. They didn't have, or don't have video games and, all this other kind of stuff, but they had so much joy just playing in the creek right around in their neighborhoods or just, playing soccer, just with each other. They had so much joy. In this particular area, they had mud huts, no electricity and none of this other kind of stuff, but they were so happy. But here's the kicker. Here's the thing. Maybe a mile and a half, 2 miles from where that particular instance took place with those kids, there was some presidential palaces and some resorts that were literally off the chain. I'm talking about some of the wealthiest areas that you would have ever seen. And it was amazing to me for the simple fact, the same thing that you just talked about. When you listen to the media from the Western world, it would seem as if there's nothing there but poverty and there's nothing there but, scandal and all these other things, when in actuality, the resources are plentiful. The mindset is different. The energy is different. And people are much more appreciative of, the culture and humanity in general. So I really enjoyed going to Kenya and going to, different parts of Africa. And I know that you and your organization, you do a tour. Is that correct? Every year, taking people to Africa. Could you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, definitely. I do educational tours. They're primarily to clear up a lot of misconceptions that Americans have about African people and the continent itself, because we kind of look at Africa as one place, but Africa is the most diverse continent in the world, ethnically, genetically, in terms of animals and landscapes and
Right.
climate and culture and language. And also Africa has more countries than any other continent. It's almost 60 different countries in Africa. So
That's right.
the
Yeah.
tours, so the tours, they kind of go to different parts of the continent. We go to South Africa, we go to Kenya, we go to Ghana, Senegal, Cape Verde, we go to Egypt. So, each tour provides a specific differently experience. So for an example, like we live in America, we live in North America, but if you go to Mexico or Haiti or Jamaica or Canada, those places are totally different. The language is different. The food is different. The people look different,
Right.
different laws, different customs. So Africa is probably 10 times more diverse than that, So I've taken middle school students, high school students, college students, elders, young adults, and each tour, like I say, is totally different. So we go to Egypt, we kind of focus on that ancient African history, 5,000, 10,000 years ago. We go to the pyramids of Giza, the Valley of the Kings, the Sphinx, Hatshepsut's temple, Aswan, Abu Simbel, Saqqara, Memphis, places like that. And,
Right.
we see the great Black pharaohs, the great Black kings and queens that ruled and built, the greatest structures on earth. But we have tours to West Africa as well, because some people want to reconnect with that lost history and that lost culture, because Ghana is one of the places where the slaves left before they came to America. You know what I'm saying? So we go to the door of no return. We go to the slave dungeons and the slave castles. We learn about the Ashanti tribe, and we learn about some of the wars that was fought, because they don't really teach us that part. They kind of say, well, all Africans sold us into slavery, but they
Right.
don't tell us about the Africans that fought against the British to try to stop slavery and different things like that. We learned about the Kente cloth. We learned about the Adinkra printing. You know what I'm saying? So,
Man, that's that's deep. I mean, I know that had to be an incredible cultural experience, not just for yourself, but everybody that participates. So this is something, again, you do annually, every year, or just periodically, or how does that work?
we go all year round. You can pick your own date. So it's
Okay.
tour packages. So you can go for a week, you can go for 2 weeks, you can go to multiple countries. So it includes the flight, hotel, breakfast, dinner, all of the activities. So like I mentioned, if we go to the Cairo Museum, we go to the Bread Pyramid, the Bent Pyramid, the Step Pyramid, all of those activities are included. We ride down the Nile, we ride on the camels, different things, everything would be included. And it includes flight insurance, travel insurance. And, I
Right.
know a lot of people, their biggest fear is like, oh, Africa is so dangerous. But if you do your research, you know what I'm saying, statistically, is dozens of African countries that are far safer than the United States. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Every year they do a global peace index. So in terms of violent crime, militarization, gun violence, mass shootings, places like Ghana and Botswana and Senegal and Cape Verde, they 2-3 times safer than a place like Chicago or New York or New Orleans, or St. Louis or something.
Right, right. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Botswana. I always laugh, but one of my favorite artists is Jill Scott. And
Mm-hmm.
she actually had a television show. A lot of people don't know this. It was a television show that originated in Botswana. It's called
Wow.
it's called a Number One Ladies Detective. I'm not promoting this, but if you guys just kind of look it up, I think it was on HBO or whatever the case may be. But it was the Number One Ladies Detective, and she had a detective agency in Botswana. And I mean, I just loved it because I love Jill Scott, but it got to a point I'm like, man, I might have to move to Botswana. 'Cause,
Oh yeah, I've been to Botswana. You would love it. You would love it for
yeah,
sure.
it's incredible, man. So those of you who follow Jill Scott, take a look at that television show. I think it ran maybe 1 or 2 seasons actually,
Mm-hmm.
and it, like I said, originated in Botswana. It's called the Number One Ladies Detective. But yeah, it's a beautiful area in Africa. So yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying with that. But hey, let's shift gears a little bit because with everything else that you're doing, with your activism and teaching and helping and empowering people, you're an artist, you're a hip hop artist, and man, that you have some incredible work. Just kind of tell us a little bit about how you have developed into an artist and what you're doing in that arena.
Oh man, like I say, it go back to my family once again, because my uncle, he was a poet, he was a musician, he was a playwright, so he definitely inspired me for sure. But growing up, I had older brothers, and then I had older cousins that lived with us, and my dad, they used to play a lot of records, back in the 80s. They used to have house parties and stuff like that. So I kind of got a chance to experience music at a young age, especially hip hop. A lot of my friends, they couldn't really listen to stuff like that as a
Right.
kid. They had to get older and stuff. So, I used that to my advantage. And then, like in elementary school, that's kind of like when I started writing raps. It was all for fun. but as I got older and matured, I started writing and making songs with more meaning, with more messages, lyrical content, things that'll make people think. And I think that's definitely needed now more than ever. Because when I
Right.
was growing up, like in the the late 80s, early 90s, you had a lot of, Public Enemies and Ice Cubes and X Clan and Boogie Down Productions, KRS-One, Rakim. It was so many different artists that brought different perspectives, but there was, a lot of knowledge in their music,
Right. That's good, man. I tell you what, you got a track, and we're going to listen to it shortly, but I want you to kind of give us a little bit of background on this track. It's called "Do Revolutionaries Go to Heaven?" When you think about it, and when I heard it and I listened to it over and over and over again, it's real, real deep. So, how did the concept of "Do Revolutionaries Go to Heaven" come about?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. At the time that I wrote that song, I was living in South Africa, and this
Okay.
was in 2020. So this was like at the height of the pandemic. Everything was kind of closed down. So I was staying in Johannesburg. That's like the largest city in South Africa. It's like a concrete jungle. It's almost like New York, but African style. So I
Right.
lived in this area called Maboneng. It's like an art district, like outside of the downtown area. But it's a real unique area. I haven't really been to many places like this, but a lot of rappers, singers, dancers, poets, fashion designers, you know what I'm saying, artists, painters, photographers, videographers, everything. They come to this area and they showcase their talents, so the building that I was living in, it was producers and rappers and studios available, although everything was shut down, I still had access and means to make music. So, by me living in this area and walking to the grocery store every day, there's a lot of murals in this area, murals of great Black leaders like Nelson Mandela,
Right.
Marcus Garvey, people
Right.
like Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, just looking at them every day and, understanding that the world was going through so much chaos, not knowing what was going to happen next. That was something that kind of kept my spirits lifted at that time. So I wanted to write a song basically, just giving props to the people that sacrificed their life, their freedom, their families, their money, their careers. They put everything on the line to advance and to liberate Black people. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. Man, that's incredible, bro. I mean, it truly tells a story. I've heard it, and it truly tells a story. And we want to actually debut it here on our platform at the Deep Dive Podcast, and also on One Voice Radio. As I may have mentioned before, we're in over 172 countries around the world, so we want to expose this particular artistry to all of these countries and everybody. So let's take a quick listen, everybody. You can actually hear this on YouTube as well, but you're going to hear it here on the Deep Dive Podcast. For us, it's the very first time. For the world, we expand in this particular artistry. But let's take a quick listen to "Do Revolutionaries Go to Heaven?" Man, that is absolutely incredible. I tell you what, this is just a little inside, but when we first conversed about doing the podcast, and you shared a little bit about your YouTube videos, that was one that I listened to, and then I listened to it again, and then I listened to it again. And the more you listen to it, you keep getting these jewels every time you listen to it. Congratulations on that particular track, man. I tell you, it is empowering. It does share a message with so many people. And it also talks about, everything that you said in terms of the empowerment of people, the revolutionaries that they are, some of the things, the sacrifices that they have made. I mean, this is incredible. So you guys, if you didn't get a chance to listen to it, or you want to hear it again, you can go to all of these podcast platforms and listen to it again, or it's on YouTube. The Revolutionaries Go to Heaven. There's one more that I know I'm kind of infringing on your time. I know you're a busy guy, but there's one more I certainly wanted to talk about and hear a little bit more too, because it's funny. My sister and I talked about this yesterday. The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice.
Right.
And we were talking about this just yesterday. How did that particular track come about?
Man, I got to give props to Sade Renee. Shout out to her. She wrote the hook for sure. You know, I got the beat and I kind of had the concept in mind, you know, just pretty much paying homage to Black women, letting them know that they are beautiful, they are
Right.
loved, they are needed. You know what I'm saying? They everything, you know what I'm saying? So whether they
Yeah.
dark skin or they brown skin or they light skin or they mix, you know, we love them all the same, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's good, man. The one thing that I kept hearing in this particular track, and like you said, shout out to Sade Renee. Talk about, women as queens and, they're beautiful and all of these things that are so uplifting to women. And that's another reason I really wanted to just kind of, expose our audience to that particular track as well. So I want to, again, let you guys listen in to this particular track. It's featuring Sade Renee and your boy. So let's take a listen to The Blacker the Berry, the Sweeter the Juice on the Deep Dive Podcast. All right, man. Once again, it's incredible. And I'm sure Sade Renee is listening in, tuning in, and congratulations to you, my sister. What it is that you're doing and through your artistry is absolutely incredible. And, we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge your talent as well. So congratulations and kudos to you. This is an uplifting, it's an anthem type tune. And yeah, man, congratulations on that. You're doing some big things, brother. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you, thank you. Likewise, I love the show. I'm so thankful that you allowed me to come on here, man. I look forward to the future episodes as well.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. As we wind up, we certainly want to make sure that, we're in a position to continue to connect with you in whatever platform you have. I know that you had a book. Did you want to talk a little bit about your book? So, just kind of
Oh,
share
yeah.
that with the audience.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, my uncle, he co-founded a Black nationalist organization during the civil rights movement. So, you know, a lot of Black people, they were kind of disenchanted with the peaceful protesting, with
Mm-hmm.
nonviolent resistance. So this organization was called the Afro Set. So Afro is synonymous with African. So that's, you know, not the hairstyle. So
Right.
basically, this group was at the forefront of reintroducing Black Americans to African history, African culture, African fashion, African, spirituality, African language. So they had classes. They would teach people how to speak Swahili. They would teach economics. They would teach self-defense. They did military drills. They went to the farm. They did target practice. They practiced with the machetes and sticks and
Mm-hmm.
different things like that. They had a lot of social programs, like free breakfast, free lunch. They started a drug rehabilitation program. They helped found a health clinic. They opened up a theater. They did a lot of musical performances, plays, fashion shows. Because what they was doing, they was dressing like Africans as well. So they wore dashikis and head wraps and Afrocentric jewelry and necklaces and different things like that.
Mm-hmm. That's good, man. Well, I tell you what, bro, again, congratulations on everything that you're doing. We would like to continue to follow your career, follow your activism, follow your artistry. Is there any kind of platforms that we can stay connected with you and some of the things that you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I have a website. It's called campcleveland.org, campcleveland.org. So if you want to check out my music, if you want to see more information about the educational tours, my book. Also, I do genealogy as well. I work with people to help them retrace their family's history and their roots. So I can find a lot of things like slave schedules, birth certificates, death certificates,
Mm.
marriage licenses, military draft cards, old newspaper articles, and different things like that. And I sell a lot of items on my website. You know, I buy things from Ghana, I buy things from Brazil, I buy things from Cuba, and I bring them back to the States. So I've been doing a little bit of business also.
Okay. Well, excellent, man. Again, congratulations. You guys make sure you go to campcleveland.org, camp, C-A-M-P, cleveland.org. Support. One of the things that we're big on, especially in the Deep Dive podcast in our community, is to continue to support each other. So make sure you go to campcleveland.org. Make sure you continue to follow and support our friends, our brothers, and people who are doing things like Taye and everybody else that's a part of his network. So Again, Taye, my brother, I appreciate you so much for gracing us on the Deep Dive podcast. Any last words before we get out of here?
No, man. I just want to thank the viewers for sure. I thank everybody for tuning in and giving me an opportunity to, talk about my journey a little bit. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, my brother. We'll continue to follow you and support you. And for everybody else, make sure you continue to follow the Deep Dive podcast. We're on all the major podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, 11 different platforms. You can also take a look at the podcast on my website at samorum.com, SAMORUM.com. So with that, guys, make sure that you like, subscribe, download, and share. Thank you so much for joining us on the Deep Dive podcast. Continue to success, and I'll see you all on the beaches of the world. God bless.